It's a brand new year, and with that comes another round of presentation design trends to talk about. Now, presentation design trends don't usually change very quickly. They are often a reflection of graphic design, UI, typography, and branding trends. And what works for those mediums doesn't always work for presentation design. So, as I've said before, use these trends not as rules but more as inspiration, as thought starters to help with your design projects. Let's get started. The rise in remote work and virtual meetings has drastically changed the way organizations and teams work. With more and more presentations being delivered virtually, presentation designers have leaned into the minimalist design trend quite strongly. The key to designing for this new normal is embracing radical simplicity. A designer must reduce a slide to its core idea and then push to simplify even further. There are certain aspects of presentation design that do not translate well to a virtual meeting. Small screen devices, available bandwidth, etc. must be taken into consideration. For example, subtle textures or gradients may not translate well over a remote presentation. The size of fonts may need to change to improve readability. And complicated animations need to be replaced by more subtle effects that easily highlight the core message of the slide. So, it's not a big stretch to say that radical simplicity as a design trend will continue to make a huge impact in the world of presentation design. Glassmorphism as a UI trend has been around for quite a while, made particularly popular by brands like Microsoft and Apple in their OS interface designs. It was around November 2020 that Glassmorphism UI gained wide popularity amongst designers, when Apple used this effect again on the Big Sur update for its OS. And it once again came center stage with Microsoft using it for the new Windows 11 look. Following its popularity in the UI/UX design space, presentation designers, including myself, quickly took notice of this trend and started experimenting with it, with numerous tutorials and templates popping up all over YouTube, Dribbble, and Behance. In a nutshell, Glassmorphism is about using frosted glass as the main element to create a background blur on accompanying elements in the layout. Transparency and blur background are the main features for creating this glassy effect. However, despite its popularity, I would like to caution you on the use of this trend in presentation design, as creating this look can often be more trouble than it's worth. It does require a fair amount of fiddling around to get the effects just right. And depending on the type of presentation you're making, it could actually distract you from your core content and messaging. Along with Glassmorphism, around the same time, there was another design style that caught the eye of presentation designers: Nuemorphism. In Nuemorphism, simplicity is the selling point of the style. And although this style originated in the 80s, it is both futuristic and straightforward. Nuemorphism combines background colors, shadows, shapes, and even gradients to create 3D-looking graphic elements. These are quite realistic and almost provide a tactile experience to the presentation design. And since minimalism is a mainstay in terms of presentation design, and Nuemorphism at its very core is about being minimalistic, this design trend is not only impactful but a lot more flexible compared to Glassmorphism. So, I think in the context of presentation design, this trend will be around a lot longer as compared to the glass trend. The Memphis design trend has actually been around in presentation design for quite a while. I, for one, simply thought of it as geometric design, and it's only while researching graphic design trends that I realized this trend is called the Memphis design style. The Memphis style is one of the most instantly recognizable design styles. It's known for its use of bright neon, primary and pastel colors, geometric shapes, and bold, repetitive patterns. This style is experiencing a resurgence in graphic and illustration design as the trend for reviving all things 80s continues to feel fresh and relevant. The Memphis style is identified by a few key characteristics. A flat vectorized style that is often accented with bright saturated color choices. Geometric shapes are the primary art element and few actual photos are used. Designs are accented with plenty of strokes and squiggle lines to provide navigation cues or points of reference. Highly visual sans serif typefaces are the popular choice, often in block or bubble styles. The philosophy behind this geometric trend dictates that presentation designs are sleek, minimal, with an attitude that favors utility over aesthetic. There's a reason why designers dig geometric Bauhaus-inspired designs. They're simple yet striking, and are therefore ideal when you want your presentation to have a real impact. Geometric shapes are simple but modern and fun. This design trend can also have a retro feel, making the audience feel nostalgic. A geometric design adds depth to your slides without being distracting for your audience. Bauhaus design lends itself perfectly to corporate slide decks and PowerPoint presentations due to its eye-catching simplicity and structured functionality. From apps to operating systems, dark mode has become an extremely popular design trend, and presentations are no exceptions. This aesthetic treatment of heavy, dark backgrounds with reverse type has become quite trendy, giving presentation designers the opportunity to experiment with contrast. It helps make creative elements more visible and is also said to reduce blue light exposure. Capitalizing on this trend towards dark mode interfaces can help you create a high-tech modern look and differentiate your presentation. For example, using neons with dark backgrounds can be a great combination to add a punch to your presentation and put a spotlight on your key information. Of course, you should be careful when using neon and dark backgrounds. If used incorrectly, they can cause a strain on the eye and may not be a suitable design type for your target audience or presentation subject. If you jump into this trend, make sure your type is readable, as reverse text is quite hard to read. When it comes to social media, self-explanatory slideshows are becoming increasingly popular. This growing trend for self-evident visual presentations rejects the role of a traditional presenter in favor of eye-catching imagery that tells a story quickly and efficiently. In fact, as slideshows for social media become progressively trendier, you need to be able to create presentations that stand alone and don't need speech in order to be understood. Digital design has been heading this way for quite a while, and it continues. Images are taking over from text in terms of hierarchy. Accordingly, lots of designers are focusing on the visuals and dialing back on the text that goes with them. Where in the past words may have been the dominant feature of presentations, it is now often up to images to convey a whole message in one shot, or even more than one shot when it comes to animation. Using animation can elevate your message and engage and perhaps surprise your audience. This is especially important in making pitches that sell. The real crux of it is, while slideshows continue to evolve on social media, you need to be able to create presentations that stand alone. In other words, presentations that can grab and maintain the attention of your audience without text and speech, and sometimes without any sound at all. Every presentation we design is an opportunity to reimagine and innovate how we engage and connect with the world. The trend of inclusive design and empathy-driven experiences is growing considerably across all traditional mediums of design. And this will be reflected strongly in presentation design as well. This gigantic diversity of people in the world will be showcased in presentations using illustrations, vectors, and stock photography. And talking about empathy-driven experiences, there will also be a greater push towards making accessibility accessible to everyone. Presentation designers will work harder to make slides that are accessible, unlocking your content to everyone and enabling people with differing abilities to read and use your slides. Accessibility features like alternative text with visuals, setting the reading order of slide contents, using sufficient contrast for text and background colors. These are just some of the best practices that will become more commonplace in presentation design. If you're a presentation design enthusiast of any type, you've surely come across these cool dynamic parallax slides. These effects are quite cinematic and visually impressive, but can be of limited practical use. They are probably best used as opening or breaker slides. Instead, the parallax-related trend I'm talking about is that of scrollytelling. The word scrollytelling itself is a combination of storytelling and scrolling. It refers to a digital multimedia story that unfolds as you scroll. Scrollytelling is the dynamic interplay of text and imagery brought to life through parallax by using the morph feature of PowerPoint. Designing these interconnected slides gives the story of your presentation an engaging rhythm. The right visuals can help pique someone's interest and get them hooked onto your presentation even before you deliver your key points. Scrollytelling is a great way to engage and actively keep your audience in touch with the story they are consuming. The scroll gives them a sense of control, exploration, and discoverability. "2D meets 3D", a mashup that can create some unique visual aesthetics. While 2020 and 2021 saw lots of designers tackling full three-dimensional designs for their design projects, the emerging trend is to incorporate elements of 3D with a flatter overall aesthetic. Elements with a 3D flair might include shadows, animations, or layer effects to create depth and dimension. The three-dimensional design also extends to visual storytelling, especially for a presentation project. If you're suffering from flat, boring slides, you have less of an excuse than ever since the addition of 3D models in Microsoft Office. Implementing 3D objects can bring your presentations to life, make your brand assets jump out from the page, and create a vivid world your audience would want to dive into. This 3D design trend is still ongoing, evolving, and establishing itself. As it offers limitless possibilities to designers, it gives room for anything you can imagine. So, throw your audience into a 3D world and push the boundaries of presentation design, all this without leaving PowerPoint. One of the consequences of going so heavily digital in the last few years is tech fatigue. So when putting together an engaging presentation, there are two things we need to keep in mind: design and function. In other words, your slides look attractive but also need to give people information and ideas in a user-friendly format. A professionally designed presentation exploding with new design trends is one of the only ways to give people a break from that tech fatigue. Hopefully, this roundup helps inspire you to innovate on your next presentation design project. I hope you find this content helpful. Hit the like and subscribe buttons to show your love. Once again, thank you for watching, and remember to keep on creating.